Right, here we are at Melrose Abbey. It's awfully cut off to us because of the fencing and renovations, because of course we come across that all the time, don't we? So here we've got Melrose was one of Scotland's richest and most powerful medieval abbeys. Walking over the site, you're retracing the steps of generations of monks who lived, worked and prayed in this sacred space. Although the church is the most eye-catching building, explore the whole site to find a bagpipe-playing pig, one of Scotland's earliest sets of reading glasses, and the place where archaeologists found a mummified heart. So what have we got in the timeline here? St Aidan in 600 to 650 of Lindisfarne establishes a monastery at Melrose, a mile east of here. Today the site is called Old Melrose. 1136, we've got David I encourages monks from Revol Abbey in Yorkshire to found Scotland's first Cistercian monastery at Melrose. 1329, we've got Robert the Bruce. He dies. His heart is buried later in the abbey. I think he was supposed to have his heart taken by Andrew, name escapes me, to the Holy Land, but the Scots that went to do that ended up fighting the Moors in Spain, I believe, en route, and didn't come to a great end, so his heart was returned back to Scotland. In 1385, we've got Richard II of England sacks the Abbey Church. The monks later rebuild it. 1590, John Watson, Melrose's last monk, dies. Monastic life ends at the Abbey, although the church continues in use until 1810. And did you know, the Melrose Abbey Museum has one of Scotland's finest medieval collections, a rare set of early reading glasses, a scribe's inkwell, beautifully carved stones and decorated tiles provide an insight into the world that the monks inhabited. So there we go. And here you've got, I mean, it was extensive. You can see all the walls that have been levelled that would have once formed part of the building. Let's see what this says. Oh, I was running on the spot to try and get some heat in me, and I think I've sprained my ankle, because that's how life goes. We've got the Abbey Church. The Abbey of St Mary of Melrose was founded on Monday, being the second day of Easter week, and its first abbot was Richard. Wright, the lay brothers' nave, as it may have looked in the early 1200s. The buildings are simple and unadorned, in line with the Cistercian order's austere code. The church was the religious heart of the monks' community. It proclaimed the glory of God, the wealth of the monastery, and the skill of the craftsmen. The Cistercians were the white monks. The Cistercian order was founded near Dijon in 1098 by a group of monks who believed that the existing rule of St Benedict was being followed too casually. They decided to strictly enforce the rule, insisting upon poverty and manual labour. Their undyed woolen robes gave them their nickname, the White Monks. The lay brothers were the labour force of the Cistercians, established to allow the monks to maintain their distance from the wider world. Their lives involved both prayer and work, with the emphasis on manual labour. They lived and prayed separately from the monks and carried out many of the menial tasks. The early church, the original less elaborate 12th century church, was destroyed by the English army in 1385. The small wall in front of you is all that remains. Here we are. Its design closely followed that of Revol Abbey, Yorkshire, the mother house of Melrose. The nave, the magnificent church, was built about 1400 and dedicated to the Virgin Mary. The grandeur of the architecture and sculpture were a distinct move away from the Cistercians' austere origins. The screen, the rood screen, mounted with a cross or rood, marked the physical diversion between the area for lay brothers and the area for the monks. In the aisle chapels, medieval abbeys were factories of prayer, where several aisle chapels could be in use for worship at any one time. People would pay monks to pray for their souls to improve their chances of reaching heaven. The more devout an abbey, the richer it could become.
Hey, why got a photo of this?
I know! I wanted to read it for folks though.
Aye.
It's got to be done.
Is that in your ink pipe?
I am. Foundations of an intended but uncompleted west front of the late 15th century. The projecting parts are buttress foundations. What? You go that way and find the loo. I'm going to go this way. We're going to sneak in here and have a wee look. I don't know if I'm allowed between these gates because there's a wee pathway laid out for us around it, but I'm kind of going to go up it anyway. Let's see if we can get a view of the Abbey without so many fences. Not really. It is a huge place. I think if we take into account all of these felled walls, it's probably bigger in extent than Dryburgh or even Jedburgh that we saw last week. Unstable gravestones. Well, we can get into it from another way. Do I just go into it from this way? Maybe. I mean, I could. Let's go into it from this way. Not trip over. Oh, there we go. We're on safe ground now. I want to see this ivy covered memorial structure here. No. Don't know if you can see that, but it's a skull with wings. Here we've got the skull and the wings as memento mori. Alden side. It's maybe Falden side. Not sure. It's a lovely wee plot for the graves here. Have these gnarled trees that you find in some graveyards. Skull and crossbones for this one. Oh, that's nice. Oh, it is not warm today. It was quite cosy in the car, but oh my lord. Liking the Celtic detailing on this one. Can't really read the inscription, I'm afraid. That's nice too. John Bowers grave marker from 1843. Here you've got the cherub face with wings, skull and an hourglass. It's good imagery for your memento mori collection. These are nice. I'm not sure why every second doesn't quite reach the ground. It's almost like it's just a shelter for the grave beneath, which is nice. A very old grave here. That one's entirely covered. The rabbits have been around too. It's a beautiful carving of a rose for James Fairbairn. Another beautiful Celtic knotwork cross. Thomas Fairbairn. Another Thomas Fairbairn. Andrew Stevenson. Two William Purdy's. (1812) John Hood, maybe? Or Hoog? Not sure. It's nice. It's relief carvings, flowers for this one. There's a nice kind of variation between the grave markers here. We've been to cemeteries where there's been a lot of the same grave markers, as if there was really just one stonemason who was in charge of making the things for a town, and they all have a fairly similar aspect to them. But in this cemetery there's quite a lot of variation. Oh my goodness. Andrew Davidson's. Can't really read any in that. Someone Elliot. James Elliot, maybe? I'm not really seeing any dates. Oh my goodness. Lots of felled gravestones. Yeah, there was a sign warning us of gravestones that were fit to topple, which we're seeing. We'll check over here and then we'll come back towards the abbey. This one has no description whatsoever left on it. Oh, Margaret Leyden, maybe? They're so weather-worn. 1842 for this one. That's nice writing. James Milne. Oh, cold hands. We saw one of these urns, vases toppled over at Jedburgh, I think, didn't we? So a few things toppled over at Jedburgh. What's in this one? Oh, this ground is all very sunken. Maybe lilies? Jane Emily Shelley, wife of William Cockburn Muir, and the dust of Catherine Hope. This one's nice, it's been carved to look like brickwork holding a scroll. It's very nice, and then someone's planted another gravestone right in front of it. What is this? J. Shiel and William Shiel. So it's likely the same family, and they've just updated the grave marker without removing the former. Rope work by the looks of it. This stone is erected by the by the female members of the congregation in something. I'm not really reading most of that. Might be easier to read after the fact on the camera, maybe. That's sometimes the case. It's quite weather worn. It looks like drapes pulled back over a theatre. Is it over a stage? A little bit. With a banner like in the middle. Lumgares. This is the grounds of the Lumgares. It's not a name that you hear often. It looks like a face of some kind. I'm not sure if it's a stylized skull, maybe. Hard to tell. Oh, this ground is very sunken. Let's see if we can get in here. There's a lot of people around today, which is a little strange, being as it's Thursday and not the weekend, so there's no breaking in allowed on my part. Incredible stonework. You can see the wee figures, the statues with perhaps the king and queen in the middle at the top. These side pieces here and here would have contained statues too. We'll get around the other side of it and see what we can see. I'm trying to get as little fence as possible, but it's difficult, being as there are so many fences. Another beautiful Celtic crosswork across there. We'll go and see if we can see that a wee bit better. Very nice. Okay, and back out we come. Now I think we have a musician here. A fiddle and maybe a clarinet. Some kind of wind instrument. And there's no name to be read, unfortunately, to be able to look him up. He's got wee faces on the side, I like that. I like that a lot. Okay, so here we have the Exterior sculpture. Walk outside through the south door to take a look at the fantastic sculpture on the outer walls of the church. Look out for the army of demons and hobgoblins, the angelic musicians and bagpipe-playing pig. I have not spotted the bagpipe-playing pig yet. Aki's has the map. We've got 2, the presbytery ceiling. The intricate pattern of ribs and arches on the ceiling is decorated with saints, angels and the Holy Trinity. 3, the night stair. These steps led down from the sleeping quarters on the first floor of the cloister range. Monks woke at 2 a.m. and immediately came down these steps to attend to their early morning prayers. The 2 chief apostles, high up in the north transept, are replica statues of St. Peter and St. Paul. The originals were removed to prevent further weathering and they are on display in the museum. St. Peter left, the keeper of the gates of heaven, holds his book of names and carries the keys. St. Paul is badly eroded, although can still be identified by his trademark sword. And the Morrow inscription. Little personal information is known about the men who built Scotland's abbeys. This makes 2 inscriptions on the south transept remarkable. They refer by name to a French master mason called John Morrow, who worked at Melrose around 1400. And I actually have a number of articles from Scots Lore, the first book I ever uploaded to Random Scottish History website, on John Morrow and his works. I think he had a hand in Sweetheart Abbey, although I would have to check that. John Morrow, sometimes called, was I, and born in Paris certainly, and had in keeping all the mason work of St Andrews, the High Kirk of Glasgow, and Paisley, of Nithsdale and Galloway. I pray to God and Mary both, and sweet St John, to keep this holy church from harm. Didn't really escape from harm, being that it's quite eroded, broken, and we can't get into it. So still on the lookout for our bagpipe playing pig. I may have passed it already. God, the stonework is just so intricate that it's even held up as well as it has. Is amazing. You would think all these intricate windows would just crumble and fall away after a while with weathering and age. Maybe John Morrow's plea worked to a certain extent. We'll go back around and we'll catch the other side. So there's the usual kind of signage we see outside these places, where all the fencings are up to stop you from getting brained by falling masonry. Here we've got, for centuries Melrose Abbey was closely linked to the crown. While it never gained the regal position of Iona or Dunfermline, its location close to England and association with kings has given it a special place in Scotland's history. David was instrumental in inviting the pious Cistercians to Melrose. The abbey's location on the border with England sent a strong message about the wealth, power and worldliness of the Scottish king. Robert I, during the Wars of Independence, Melrose's location near the border put it at risk from the fighting. After the church was damaged in 1322, Robert the Bruce helped pay for it to be rebuilt. Before his death, Robert instructed that his heart be buried here. Did he? So it wasn't his heart that was supposed to be taken to the Holy Land then? Who was that? I was sure that was Robert the Bruce. We've got Alexander II. In 1249, Alexander broke the tradition of royal burials at Iona and Dunfermline Abbeys by requesting to be buried at Melrose. After he died whilst campaigning against the Norse, his body was brought here from Argyll. Burial at Melrose never caught on with later monarchs. And Richard II of England. Melrose was again at the forefront of conflict with England in 1385, when the English monarch laid waste to Scotland's border region. Although Melrose was burned down with fiery flames, the rebuilding began almost immediately. Funding was provided by Richard II himself, perhaps because he now viewed southern Scotland as conquered, or perhaps to salve his conscience. We've got some plaques down here. Lay Brothers Refectory or Dining Hall. The cross walls are later insertions. Go down and through here. Lay Brothers Range with dormitory overhead. See what this has to tell us. We'll not walk over the walls if we can help it. Site of the kitchens. We have a life of devotion. Work and prayer dominated a monk's life. While there was a daily timetable, it varied depending on the seasons and religious holy days. Everyday activities were highly ritualised. While sleeping, the monks would continue to wear their robe and slept with their hands folded above the blanket. Meals were viewed as a mix of bodily and spiritual sustenance, with religious readings the only sounds that broke the silence. Our food is scanty, our garment rough, our drink is from the stream, and our sleep upon our book. Melrose Chronicles. The monks of Melrose produced one of Scotland's best-known medieval books, the Chronicle of Melrose. It was written by a succession of monks and recorded national and international events as well as events at the monastery. It's a little like the Scotichronicon, the last chapter of which is in the Black Book of Paisley, which I've been unable to get any kind of a copy of. Inkwell. This inkwell has two small holes in the handles, allowing the monk to carry it around in a leather belt. Lots of pots. The kitchener and his assistants cooked the food in metal pots and made sure it was served fairly. Cleverly designed to be used in a standing position, these pots could be carried discreetly under the monk's robes. Was that to pee in during the service when, they couldn't get up and go anywhere? We read that before at a previous abbey, didn't we? So a day in the life of a monk. 2 a.m. nocturnes, the first day's prayers. Stay awake to read or privately contemplate God. 4 a.m. matins prayers, change and wash. 6 a.m. prime prayers, followed by morning mass with other monks. Chapter house meetings at which daily tasks are assigned. 7 a.m. work begins. 8 a.m. terse prayers and sung mass. 11:30 a.m. sext prayers. 12 noon, a frugal lunch, rest and private prayer. 2:30 p.m. none prayers, work. 6 p.m. Vespers prayers. 7 p.m. Collatio, the monks sit and listen to a reading. 7:30 p.m. Compline prayers. And 8:15 p.m. bed. That's quite the strict lifestyle. We certainly signed up for it, so we can't be too sorry for them. I'm sure it's something you'd get used to fairly quickly. Humans are very adaptable creatures. Site of the lavatorium or wash place for the use before entering the adjacent dining hall. Fair enough. Architecture of solitude. Enclosed and away from the eyes of strangers, this cloister was where the monks lived and worked. On the same basic plan found across Europe, the buildings were arranged around an open square. Archaeological excavations and comparisons with other abbeys give us a good idea of the layout. And you can see just how extensive the buildings were as part of the abbey. The monk is not allowed to live outside the monastery walls. The monks whose habitation, according to the rule, must be the cloister, may go to the granges each time that he is sent, but never to stay there for a long time. Again, very restricted lifestyle. We'll go down these steps. More of these lead covered. I'm wondering if these were pillars that upheld a roof and they've been covered in lead as a way to kind of protect them to some extent from weathering, etc. I don't know that though. This could be another one of these man-made waterways that provided the abbey with water, and possibly where a mill field could have been used, or no. The latrine pit flushed by the great drain which is exposed on the other side of the road, so it was for wastewater then rather than for drinking water. It says basement of the bear daughter or latrine block. Bear daughter. Not heard that before. There's left perhaps for, so we've got Walter John Montague Douglas Scott, 8th Duke of Buccleuch, 10th Duke of Queensberry, and Mary Duchess of Buccleuch and Queensberry, 1900 to 1993. That is exceptionally modern. Just can't get over how amazing the structures are. The stonework. It's just so intricate. Okay. Oh, I think we've got one more sign to read. And then we'll check out the museum where it should be a little bit warmer because it's freaking freezing. Will not that bother people while they're reading the thing. And here's another. There you go. The heart of Robert the Bruce, I believe. A noble heart may have nane ease, gie freedom fail ye. go and we'll see this. Get to our last card of information here. If the church was the abbey's spiritual heart, the chapter house was its head. The monks gathered here in the chapter house every morning to carry out their administrative duties. Led by the abbot seated on a throne-like chair, meetings began with a reading from a chapter of the Rule of St. Benedict, giving the room its name, followed by a discussion on abbey business and tasks for the day. Order and discipline were seen as vital to help the brothers avoid sin, so the community was invited to publicly confess wrongdoings and seek forgiveness during the daily meetings. The abbot would then decide on punishments, which could also be carried out in public. These would range from exclusion from communal activities, a beating with a bundle of rods, to imprisonment. Excavations under the floor of the chapter house uncovered a lead casket containing a heart burial. Although Robert the Bruce's heart was buried at Melrose, it is more likely that a man of his status would be buried at the high altar. Heart burials were not unusual in the medieval period, and this may have been the heart of one of the abbots or church patrons of the abbey. Numerous stone coffins were found under the floor of the chapter house during excavations in 1996. There we go. We'll head up and we'll get to the museum, which should take us inside, which would be nice, because it's freezing. I did say we're due snow. It's always saying we're due snow though, and then we don't get any. And I'll need to find Aki's map to see where our bagpipe playing pig is, because I'm not leaving without catching him. This takes us straight out onto a road, does it? Okay. Loud. Visitors must keep off the foundations again. Happy to. There's stones covering this. I wonder if this would have all been covered with stones. Almost a buried channel. Here we've got what they're talking about across the road, the Great Drain, which supplied water and flushed the main buildings of the complex. I mean, these themselves are quite the work. The Lambs of God. An international institution, Melrose was one component of a multinational network of Cistercian monasteries. Within 50 years of their foundation, there were over 300 Cistercian monasteries across Europe. Isolated within their cloister, the Cistercians were unable to directly hire and manage labourers. To solve this problem, they established a community of lay brothers. Educated in Cistercian ways, these men carried out the many agricultural and industrial tasks, including carpentry, smithing, tanning, and masonry. The system provided a workforce free from feudal customs. In medieval Europe, this was a distinct competitive advantage that allowed them to develop their large estates without constraints. The Cistercians were hugely successful sheep farmers, concentrating on the uncultivated hills around Melrose. They bought great tracts of land where they applied new methods of animal husbandry. Two of their largest granges, or sheep farms, were at nearby Eildon and Gattonside. And did you know, Melrose wool was marketed throughout the great trading ports of northern Europe. The Cistercians had wool storage barns in Berwick-upon-Tweed and their own ship to export wool. Their economic success and the attraction of their austere spirituality helped to make this the wealthiest abbey in Scotland. So there you go. Let's see what this has for us. And that just says again the great drain which supplied water and flushed the main buildings of the complex. What's this wee thing with wood? I think it's for animals to be able to set up home, like bugs and such. ID MK1590 with an AM the right hand side. The house of the commendator, non-monastic administrator of the abbey. Okay. I will. Someone didn't. not to disturb anyone by talking too much, especially without echoing. You see it on the camera, but it's earthenware pipes which conveyed the supply of fresh water to the bathhouse. Abbey. Here's the original. Of all this stonework, it's absolutely beautiful. So, those pots that were designed to be hidden under robes were to be in during the services. So, I believe that's it for Melrose. We need to come back to all these places once they're open, because I remember coming to Melrose with the school on a trip, and we got to wander about inside. It's obviously a very recent thing that they've started sealing off large sections after surveys were done to ensure that no one is mortally wounded by falling masonry. But I do feel like if they were to offer disclaimers inside the tourist entrance shops that you go through to get to a lot of these places, that if we had something to sign saying, listen, I will put no onus on yourselves if I get brained by going in beyond your fencing, that would work, because I would sign that and I would be in there getting a good look at everything, sanctioned rather than stealing a peek, you know. We haven't seen our bagpiping pig. I'll need to find Aki's, for he has the map. I'd say this place would be absolutely well worth a visit once all the scaffolding and fencing is gone. I mean, there's a good chance the scaffolding may never go, that it will always be there to help prop the thing up, but definitely worthy of a visit. So that's it for Melrose.